Seriously.
Wow. Yeah.
There's really, I don't even know who I'm talking to right now. Like there's...
Yeah, wow. That's mean. You know what? You're gonna die alone and scared.
This is horrible!
Well, you know what, Ryan?
Oh, this is horrible. I am sorry. I think you were really nice and sweet, and that was awful. This is awful. If your face was a movie, it would be Shrek.
She makes a really good transformation, so I'm fine with that.
Shrek is not a girl. Shrek is played by Mike Myers. He stays Shrek. God!
It was a little bit weird for the first hour or so, but it was 3 days of shooting, just that one little piece. So, halfway through the second day, you just find yourself pantsless at the snack bar, wondering what brought you here.
We should
Middle of the dinner once, I grabbed the camera and I went in the bathroom and I just took a picture of myself. And I just wanted to see if he would naturally edit these photos at some point. Nope.
He sent it out?
Yeah. So I think there's one day, I hope it doesn't happen, but there's a picture of mine floating around somewhere. There was a bit of make perfect. So I'm very grateful to Bill Corso.
Covered in scar tissue.
Yeah, thank you, Bill.
Hey besties, welcome back to my channel. Blake Lively was forced to concede in her motion for a summary judgment that one of the claims that she had made against Justin Baldoni, one of the most salacious claims that grabbed the most headlines, a claim that's circulating all over the internet and is currently headlined everywhere, related to him describing the man bits. Yeah, that part. In her motion for summary judgment, Blake Lively admits that this conversation was not what it seemed, and Justin Baldoni's testimony confirms it's not what it seemed, but most importantly, it happened before she ever signed on to the film. She wasn't an employee. She wasn't anyone at Wayfair or It Ends With Us movie. She hadn't even accepted the role. She had invited Justin Baldoni into her home to talk and meet about the possibility of her becoming the main character in the film, Lily Bloom. Yep. Happened on December 14th, 2022, and she didn't have a signed contract. She hadn't agreed to take the role, and it isn't what it seems. So what actually was it? Well, in her motion for summary judgment, she goes through her timeline of facts of how everything came to pass. And she seems really annoyed that Justin Baldoni decided that he would direct, executive produce, and be the film's lead actor, even though it was Colleen Hoover that asked him to be the actor. And that Wayfair appointed Heath, with even less experience, as lead producer and as the president of It Ends With Us Movie, LLC, the wholly owned entity, and produced the film with Wayfair, employed all cast and crew. Heath oversaw Saks, an experienced independent producer. That's debatable, you guys. Because her film company that she oversaw closed in 2017. It was only open for a year. She was primarily just the financer, the financial backer for films. And her film production company closed because of SH claims against her partner. And people that were accusing her partner of doing this stuff at parties, nonetheless, say that she witnessed it and did nothing to stop it. In 2017, a dozen individuals who either worked for or were involved in these incidents spoke to The Hollywood Reporter, and none of them would go on record because, per The Hollywood Reporter, they were afraid of retribution from Duncan and Saks. Retribution. They were afraid of being retaliated against by Saks and Duncan. And in one instance, they referenced a dinner that she was at, and it says, in August, at a dinner with Saks and the producers of the upcoming film book club at Vicenti in Los Angeles, a seemingly inebriated Duncan allegedly attempted to kiss a female producer on the lips without her consent, and he repeatedly propositioned two women at the table, one related to the female producer, for a threesome. Book Club, directed by Bill Holderman, boasts a roster of stars including Diane Keaton, Mary Steenburgen, and Jane Fonda. Paramount is in process of acquiring the film. She was at an event where he was acting belligerent, apparently, and did nothing. In another incident, it says in December 2016, at a crew dinner on location in Oklahoma for a film called Wildlife, an apparently inebriated Duncan kissed a female crew member on the lips without her consent, squeezed another attendee on her bottom while hugging her, suggested that a male and female crew member shotgun each other, smoke and then kiss, transferring the smoke, and offered to purchase a hotel room for the night if others reported their activities back to him. Sachs was not present at the dinner, but is said to have been told of the conduct. Why Justin Baldoni made a decision to bring her on and whether or not he knew about her background and her failures to keep a set, safe and to control her partner or, do anything for the people that her partner is doing things to. Now, he denies any of this happened and he was never sued for it and he stepped down. But the production company, he was the money behind it. So the entire company folded. So every film that she made before Justin, and it ends with us, has a huge question mark on it. So just to be clear. So Sony agreed to distribute and co-finance the film with Giannotti as liaison, and Wayfair would oversee and control all aspects of the production. The departments reported to Heath and Baldoni, who had the power to hire, fire, and discipline cast and crew. And they reported to Steve Sarowitz, which isn't exactly true. So they needed an A-list actress to headline the film to achieve commercial success they desired. When they learned of her potential interest, they put in full court press to obtain her services. All right. And then Lively was interested. Baldoni and Lively met on December 14th in what Baldoni described as redacted. In that meeting, Baldoni volunteered that his penis was circumcised, without Lively expressing any interest in the subject of Baldoni's genitalia. Lively later spoke with Plank, Liz Plank, Baldoni's longtime podcast host, who redacted, of working with Baldoni, but indicated that he had worked on himself, so she was hopeful that Lively would not have issues. Lively was disturbed, but not assuaged by Baldoni's purported commitment to being a feminist devoted to combating toxic masculinity. She was disturbed that he was a purported feminist. It's weird how she finds the most innocuous things to be annoyed with, right? So she's admitting that this conversation happened before she ever signed on. And in order to get more information, she reached out to Liz Plank to find out the deal about Justin Baldoni. It sounds like from the beginning, she was looking for something to be annoyed about. She also frames all of her involvement where she used all of her friends to pressure him as no, he used that to his advantage. So I want to just take you now to the testimony of Mr. Baldoni. In the deposition, they were really annoyed that he was the executive producer, the director, and the star, which I don't know why. Ryan Reynolds was the PGA producer, the writer, and the star of Deadpool versus Wolverine. I mean, he carried 3 roles too. And an executive producer is just the financer. That's it. He didn't have an actual on-hand production role, and he never got the credit at the end. So her husband can be the star and the producer. She can be the star and the producer, but Baldoni cannot. Got it. So they go to talk about her taking on the film. And at this discussion, in the first meeting, along with other topics, you and Miss Lively discussed your families. Is this right? Yes. And at the time, Miss Lively was pregnant. Very pregnant, yes. And was soon to give birth. Yes. And that would not be the first time Miss Lively had children already, right? Yes. They were all over the apartment. And Miss Lively was pregnant with a boy. Is that right? Yes. And the two of you discussed certain things about Miss Lively's baby. Unborn baby. Yes. Among other things, you discussed whether Miss Lively's baby would be circumcised, right? That was a conversation. Yes. And in that context of that conversation, did you at any point in time share with Miss Lively whether you were circumcised? Yes. Did Miss Lively ask you whether you were circumcised? Directly, no. Who was present at the moment when you relayed to Miss Lively that you were circumcised. There were people going all around. Mr. Reynolds was in and out of the conversation. She had, I think, 2 nannies. I felt like there was a housekeeper there. Her assistant was walking around. I think she had 2 assistants there. Her and I were sitting on the couch, but there were people all around. Have you ever told any other work colleague at any point in time about your genitalia? I don't talk about my genitalia, so no. So Ryan's in the conversation. There's like a million people around, and they're talking about her baby boy and whether or not they're going to circumcise him. Like that's the whole line of questioning around that. That's the whole line of questioning. It almost feels like maybe they brought that up to bait him to see what he would provide, what he would say. And I find it so ironic that this is being discussed because they weren't work colleagues yet, and he hadn't even signed on. This doesn't even qualify for sexual harassment under the law because they were not working together. She wasn't an employee. And what's even worse is if Miss Lively had issues with him and she didn't want to work with him, all she would have had to do at this point in time is just not sign on to the movie. According to Ryan, she literally turned down movies all the time. I mean, if we're going to be honest, it wouldn't have been the best time for her to have this job. She had the baby, I think, in late December, early January. Filming started in May. That's a lot of pressure to put on a mom after you've had a baby, and she's nursing. I'm not saying it's not possible, but it's a lot of pressure. And then throw in that there's a high likelihood that hormones are going to be out of whack, because it's how it happens after you have a baby. I've had one, I know. Your body weight isn't the same. It's harder to bounce back after 4. There's insecurities happening. Like the most vulnerable time to do this would have been at this point, and she did it anyway. So she walked into this knowing that she would be a nursing mother, knowing that she would be postpartum, knowing that he and her talked about the circumcision of a baby, which quite honestly sounds pretty boring. A lot of people have that conversation. So they have to concede in their motion for summary judgment that this happened before she ever signed on. But they're using it to set the stage that he was so disturbing even before. Well, if he was so disturbing and not a good guy and Ryan was there, why wouldn't they have just said no? And my question to you all is, if when the first allegations came out almost a year ago and you learned that her big headline, Justin discussed his genitalia with her, was about a conversation about a baby getting circumcised or not, and Justin offering that he was, which, by the way, Justin was raised Jewish. So that's actually a medical procedure and it's a bris that they do for boys in the Jewish faith. It's part of his religion. It's a medical procedure, by the way. This was him describing it to her and talking about it. I'm more than assuming she brought it up. And when you're about to have a boy and it's your first boy, it's a big topic. Trust me, I have a boy. We talked about it for months before we had my son. And a lot of people offered their take on it. We talked to men that were and weren't. We did research about it. We looked at all the different side effects and complications. And never once when I was talking to any man about it did I say, I can't believe you described your genitalia to me. Because you really are discussing a medical procedure. Okay. So if you had known that this was what it was about, wouldn't it have been a little less oh, geez, you're such a liar? And the way that this is framed by her team, it kind of proves what Wayfair has been saying the whole time, that she's walking into this with bad motive. Because if we're supposed to go off what her summary judgment says, she didn't like him from the beginning, but she decided to do it anyway. I don't know about you, but if I don't like someone, I don't want to go to work for them. But she decided to do it anyway. Oh, begrudgingly. Oh, so horrible. I'm going to get paid $3 million for doing this job. It's horrible. And as I stated yesterday, they had to spend so much time talking about everything else that was happening behind the scenes with the other women, which we explained was Christy Hall didn't get to be the director and was mad that they said no. Colleen wanted more control, and Alex Sachs wanted to be the lead PGA. She didn't want Jamie Heath to be the lead PGA. So every person mad at him that he worked with was mad because they wanted to be in charge. That's not really like, if you're going to stomp your feet and say, I'm not going to promote with you because you didn't give me what I want, it's a worse reflection of you than it is of him, because he's the owner of the IP, right? It's also clear in here that the reason why she's doing the spoliation motions and the sanctions and trying to get them not to be able to claim the smear campaign is their admission that they don't have any proof. It says, the MSJ does not confront the Wayfair defendants' continuous pattern of adverse actions, focusing instead on recharacterizing certain publicity efforts as reasonable defensive measures and relying on self-serving and disputed facts to assert that the digital campaign never happened. Okay, so this would be the perfect time for them to say that they have evidence of it. And so here's how she says what she says. The argument is legally erroneous and ignores contrary evidence, the pending spoliation motion, and expert testimony. And it says the court must deny the motion for summary judgment on the retaliation claims because Lively not only has presented substantial evidence demonstrating the existence of this campaign, she hasn't, but also sought relief for the defendant's destruction of relevant inferior communications. So if she had the evidence to prove the digital campaign, she wouldn't be asking for a severe sanction for spoliation where they're not allowed to have this defense. They don't cite law. All of this is in a footnote. Footnotes don't matter. And so much of their arguments about this contains no law to back it. Effectively, they've admitted they don't have evidence of a smear campaign. And instead of admitting they don't have evidence, they're accusing them of deleting evidence, asking the judge to deny the motion for summary judgment and deny them the right to a defense, and also claiming that they're lying in their defense that there was no smear campaign, even though she has no evidence that it existed. And do you want to know how she claims they smeared her? Do you want to know what she says is the actual smear campaign? Because she finally says what it is. Defendants publicly maligned Lively by planning and implementing a press and social media campaign to bury her. If they publicly maligned her, there would be evidence of negative comments that Justin has made about her. There would be evidence of interviews by Jamie Heath maligning her. None exist. But what is it that actually caused her reputation damage? Baldoni departed from the film's agreed upon marketing plan, despite knowing in real time that it would harm Lively and the other female cast and crew. The defendant simultaneously placed and promoted negative media and social media narratives that falsely blamed Lively for the film's marketing plan and cast aspirations at her character. Defense attempts to cast the campaign as a defensive measure or classic PR ignores the law and the facts, including their prior agreement that negative behavior, including during publicity and promotional work, could be retaliatory. I speak Ryan Reynolds, and I just want you to know that this is Ryan Reynolds' lawsuit because Ryan Reynolds developed the marketing, and this entire lawsuit is Ryan trying to blame Justin for ruining his marketing campaign because Justin decided to provide resources through No More and speak about victims and survivors of domestic violence and highlight those issues because that's what he always intended to do. And when they were left out of the promotion, not allowed to participate in the promos with the cast, and most certainly not allowed on the premiere carpet at the same time, and definitely left out of decisions when it came to marketing, all he could go on was based on what he intended to do the entire time, which, by the way, doesn't harm anyone. It doesn't harm the cast or the crew. It doesn't harm Blake Lively. Blake Lively doesn't care about victims, even in her motion for summary judgment. Ryan Reynolds doesn't care about victims, even in his summary judgment, because all they care about is that they're mad that Justin spoke about victims, provided resources, and it wasn't what they were doing. So to sum up this all, the motion for the summary judgment and the motion and the judgment on the pleadings response is throwing everything in the kitchen sink to try to malign and destroy Baldoni because it's their last stand. It's their final paper. It's their term paper. It's the end of the quarter. It's their final. It's the end of the semester. It's their final. And they know they're going to lose. They know they're going to lose because they don't have the evidence. They know that they're going to lose because they can't prove sexual harassment happened. They know they're going to lose because marketing campaigns is not retaliation. And so they had to spend all those pages to say that he's this terrible guy to only at the end let everyone know the real truth we're here is because your marketing and promotion of resources and partnering with No More and using that and using No More's promotional material, which they made ahead of time and spent money making, and proceeds of the film went to $600,000. That is what hurt her. Domestic violence shelters and promoting domestic violence resources is what hurt her reputation, not her behavior. And this is why her reputation is in the toilet. So what are your thoughts about this? Let me know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe to my channel if you haven't subscribed, and click the bell so you never miss a video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye, besties.